Is our food healthy? Look down at your hands. Now imagine you are holding an apple. It is bright red, perfectly shiny, and completely flawless. You take a bite. It is sweet, crunchy, and satisfying. But let me ask you, what did you just eat? You might say, well, I just ate an apple. But if we look deeper, if we truly stop to think, that simple piece of fruit is actually a complex story. It is a product of modern science, a marvel of global logistics, a pawn in international economics, and perhaps most importantly, a philosophical mirror reflecting who we are as a society today. Welcome to another episode. Today we are going completely off the surface. We are going to dig deep into the soil of our modern food system. We will talk about what we eat, how it is made, and about the massive systems that bring food to our tables. We will ask the hard questions. Why do we throw away mountains of food while others starve? Is it okay that a few giant companies control what the world eats? And ultimately, where is the real problem? This is not an episode to tell you what to eat. This is an episode to explore how we think about what we eat. Because every time we buy a meal, we are voting for the kind of world we want to live in. So get comfortable, open your mind, and let's dive in. Let's start where most of us get our food, the supermarket. When you walk into a modern grocery store, you are greeted by an illusion of infinite choice. There are tens of thousands of different items, whole aisles dedicated just to breakfast cereals, walls of yogurts, and endless rows of snacks. It feels like freedom, doesn't it? But if you read the labels, the illusion shatters. You realize that the most of these products are made from the exact same ingredients: corn, soy, wheat, and refined sugar. They are just processed, colored, and shaped differently. We have moved away from eating food to eating food-like substances. Historically, human beings ate to survive, to nourish their bodies, and to connect with Earth. Food was medicine. Food was life. Today, in the developed world, food has become entertainment. It is engineered to hit the bliss point, the exact combination of salt, sugar, and fat that makes our brains release dopamine. But what does this intense processing do to us? Philosophically speaking, it disconnects us from nature. When you eat an ultra-processed snack, you are not eating the sun, the rain, or the soil. You are eating a chemical formula designed in a laboratory. We are feeding our bodies, yes, but are we nourishing them? We are the most overfed society in human history, yet simultaneously we are deeply undernourished. Our cells are starving for real vitamins and minerals, while our stomachs are full of empty energy. This brings us to a crucial question of value. What do we value more? Convenience and cheap prices, or true vitality and health? Because many people have realized this problem, there has been a massive push toward better food, and with that push came the labels eco and organic. At their core, these labels represent a beautiful philosophy. They represent a desire to return to harmony with nature. Farming without synthetic pesticides, treating animals with respect, and protecting the soil for future generations. This is how agriculture was done for thousands of years. But here is where we must think critically. Have these beautiful concepts been hijacked? Today, organic is also a massive marketing tool. It is a $1 billion industry. Sometimes an organic apple is wrapped in 3 layers of single-use plastic and flown across the world. Does that still fit the philosophy of being good for the earth? Furthermore, organic food is often much more expensive. This creates a moral dilemma. Has clean, healthy food become a luxury item reserved only for the wealthy? Good health should not be a privilege, it should be a fundamental human right. When only the upper middle class can afford food grown without poison, our system is deeply broken. And then there are the 3 letters that spark endless debate: GMO, genetically modified organisms. Usually people either see GMOs as an evil manipulation of nature or a scientific savior of humanity. But let's look at it philosophically. Modifying nature is not new. Humans have been selectively breeding plants for thousands of years. The corn we eat today looks nothing like the wild grass it came from. The real question with GMOs is not just about the science, it is about how and why the science is used. If we use genetic modification to create crops that can survive droughts, meaning farmers in dry parts of the world can feed their families, that sounds like a miracle, right? But reality is often different. Many GMOs are simply designed to survive massive amounts of toxic weed killers. The crops survive, but the soil, the insects, and the water systems are devastated. So is playing God the problem? Or is the problem that we are playing God strictly for profit rather than for the well-being of the planet? This brings us directly to a question of power. Who benefits from all of this? Let me give you an image to hold in your mind. Think of an hourglass. At the very top you have millions of farmers producing food. At the very bottom you have 8 billion people needing to eat. But in the middle, at the narrowest point of the hourglass, you have just a handful of massive multinational corporations. A very small number of companies control the global seed market. A few companies control the chemical fertilizers. A few control the meat processing. They buy cheap from the millions of farmers and they sell high to the billions of consumers. Is it okay that a few companies have a near monopoly on human survival? When a corporation patents a seed, when they claim legal ownership over a living, reproducing piece of nature, we cross a dangerous philosophical line. For all of human history, seeds belong to everyone. They were passed down from generation to generation. Now, a farmer can be sued for saving seeds from his own harvest because a corporation owns the intellectual property of that plant's DNA. When food is controlled by monopolies, the primary goal is no longer feeding people. The primary goal is creating profit for shareholders. And when profit is the only metric of success, quality drops, the environment suffers, and the connection between the grower and the eater is completely destroyed. The problem is that food is not like a smartphone or car. You can choose not to buy a phone. You cannot choose not to eat. Therefore, treating food purely as a financial commodity is a dangerous game. If the system is so efficient at making money, surely it is efficient and feeding everyone, right? Here lies the darkest paradox of our modern age. Globally, we produce more than enough calories to feed every single human being on Earth. Yet millions of people go to bed hungry every night, and millions of children suffer from malnutrition. At the exact same time, roughly 1/3 of all the food processed in the world is thrown away or wasted. Let that sink in. 1/3. Why does this happen? The answer forces us to look in the mirror. First, there is the issue of cosmetic perfection. Supermarkets reject thousands of tons of fresh, nutritious vegetables simply because a carrot is not perfectly straight or an apple has a tiny spot. We as consumers have been trained to expect our food to look like plastic toys. We have forgotten that nature is imperfect. Second, it is an issue of economics. Sometimes, if the market price of tomatoes drops too low, it is actually cheaper for an industrial farm to let the tomatoes rot in the field than to pay workers to harvest them and ship them. Think about the profound sadness of that. The sun shined for months. The rain fell. The soil gave its nutrients. Farm workers spent hours tending to the crop. And the perfectly good food is left to rot because an equation on a computer screen says it's not profitable to feed it to people. The problem of world hunger is not a problem of production, it is a problem of distribution, politics, and empathy. As long as food is treated only as commodity to make money and not as a basic human right, there will always be starvation living right next door to massive waste. So, where is the actual problem? Is it the corporations, the politicians, the farmers, the consumers? I believe the root of the problem is much deeper. It is a philosophical crisis. It is the illusion of separation. We have convinced ourselves that human beings are somehow separate from nature. We look at the earth as a factory that exists only to produce resources for us. We have lost the sense of sacredness, the sense of gratitude. 100 years ago, if you wanted to eat meat, you likely knew the animal. You knew the effort it took to raise it. You respected its life, and you wasted nothing. Today, meat comes as a neat, clean rectangle wrapped in plastic, completely disconnected from the reality of a living, breathing creature. When we do not see the process, we do not care about the consequences. We don't see the rainforests being cut down to grow soy to feed factory-farmed cows. We don't see the rivers polluted by chemical fertilizers. Because we don't see it, we don't feel it. The crisis of our food system is a crisis of consciousness. But here is the beautiful part. Because the problem is a matter of consciousness, the solution begins right there too. In your mind, in your choices. You don't need to be a billionaire or a politician to change the food system. The revolution happens 3 times a day on your plate. How do we move forward? Awareness. Start by simply paying attention. Look at the ingredients. Ask yourself, where did it come from? Who grew it? Embrace imperfection. Buy the ugly vegetables. They taste exactly the same, and by buying them, you reduce waste. Support the locals. Whenever you buy directly from local farmers. Go to farmers market, bypass the hourglass monopoly. When you give your money directly to farmers, you are funding a family, not a mega corporation. Grow something, even if it's just a pot of herbs on your balcony. Reconnect your hands with the soil. Remind yourself what it takes to create life. We must shift our mindset from being passive consumers to being active citizens of the earth. Food is not just fuel, it is a culture, it is community, it is our deepest, most physical connection to the natural world. Let's stop taking it for granted. Let's start asking questions. Let's demand better, not just for our own health, but for the health of the soil, the animals, and the global community. Next time you hold an apple, look at it. Really, look at it. Respect the journey it took to get to your hands. And as you take that bite, remember, you are not just eating an apple, you're consuming a piece of the world. What kind of world do you want it to be? Thank you for listening. If this episode made you think, share it with someone you normally share a meal with. Until next time, stay curious, stay open-minded, and eat mindfully.